Hello, and welcome to the Real Short Box. My name is Donald.
I'm Jarrett.
And I am Kevin.
And today we're going to be talking a little bit about diversity in comic books. There was a recent thing that kind of popped up that made everybody lose their shit, and we kind of want to bring that out and discuss it a little bit. I think to start off, Jarrett's going to give us a little bit of information behind that and what we're going to be actually discussing.
Yeah, I'll give you a little background here. So there was a Marvel Comics retailer summit, and Marvel Senior Vice President of Print Sales and Marketing, David Gabriel, kind of caused a bit of an uproar. Now, before I even go further with this, if you just read between the lines, you know, we talk about the fake news, but how there is a lot of fake news out there. If you read between the lines on a lot of articles, you can see what the journalists are kind of picking and choosing.
It's what you call clickbaiting.
Clickbait.
Sensationalism.
Yeah. Not to say that there aren't plenty of stalwart, great journalists out there who are doing God's work. But this, I noticed with this guy, he kind of got thrown under the bus. Now, supposedly, he was quoted as saying, what we heard from the people was that people didn't want any more diversity. They didn't want female characters out there. That's what we heard, whether we believe that or not. Now, more importantly, he also cited economic reasons and Marvel's release of, quote, too much product, which I will for sure get on board with that, as other possible causes for the downturn in sales. He later kind of came back and said, we have also been hearing from stores that welcome and champion our new characters and titles and want more. He continued, they've invigorated their own customer base and helped them grow their stores because of it. So we're getting both sides of the story, and the only upcoming change we're making is to ensure we don't lose focus on our core heroes. So he mentioned also that a lot of people were kind of mad that the core heroes, Captain America, Steve Rogers, Iron Man, Tony Stark, these characters were kind of getting thrown by the wayside in replace of these diverse characters, whether their country of origin or their gender.
Right, and that makes sense.
Right.
I have seen this being a trend for years and years and years, and I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing, but I feel like taking a character's name and using it to build a new character upon isn't always necessarily the best idea. In some cases, it is a good idea.
Right.
But in other cases, it is not at all. Like, for example, for me, it gets a little confusing sometimes when you're reading a comic book and you're reading about Captain Marvel, and it's Mar-Vell of the Kree Empire,
right,
who's an alien race guy, and suddenly he is replaced, and in his place, a new Captain Marvel is a Monica Rambeau, who is a female African-American, who has completely different power set than Mar-Vell did.
Right.
And then she's gone from being Captain Marvel, and then it's Carol Danvers, who was originally Miss Marvel, and then she's Captain Marvel, and now the Miss Marvel that she was is now Kamala Khan, a young Pakistani American.
Right.
So there's a lot of shifting and changing that takes place that can lose a reader that's invested in a certain character.
We were talking the musical chairs of the characters, right?
Right, character musical chairs.
Character
absolutely.
musical chairs. Now, but what I'm hearing now is it's not that a diverse character is being replaced. It's the fact that instead of creating a whole new character,
Like Car Star Woman or something like that.
Monica
Right.
Rambeau is Star Woman or something like that.
Right.
It confusing it, putting it under the moniker of this already used name just to kind of get people behind it, almost force them behind it in that respect.
Unfortunately, it happens mostly with characters of different ethnicity.
Right.
That get, like your general white male gets replaced with somebody that's of a different ethnic background or sexuality.
Right.
Which I understand why they're doing it.
Right.
But I feel like creating new original characters without the history of the namesake can be just as powerful and just as good for diversity.
Now, I have play devil's advocate real quick.
Sure.
Someone can counter-argue what you just said with, well, what about, with Flash and Green Lantern when he went from Golden Age to Silver Age? Even though there's, white males,
Right.
the fact is they still didn't use Jay Garrick or Alan Scott anymore, and they're now using Barry Allen and Hal Jordan. So someone can say, well, hey, if they did that back then, what's the big deal of them doing this now?
And there's an argument to be made there, and that can certainly be made.
I like legacy characters on one respect, you know. I mean, I hesitate on, like, for instance, like Batman. I don't like the cape and cowl getting passed down to people. I like
Bruce Wayne.
I like Bruce Wayne as Batman. I like, you know, the switching of the Robins was fine because that was almost like a starter role. So it's like, what, for instance,
Makes sense for him to grow out of it.
we talked about the formation of Dick Grayson from Robin the Nightwing was one of the coolest transitions of a character coming out on his own and becoming his own character.
Absolutely.
You know, and actually with Robins, and they do actually a really good job with that because they've had Red Hood and such. But so I like a legacy character if it's done well. If it's just, I mean, obviously it's a business, and a lot of these, if not, you know, 99% of the reasons they do a lot of these choices is for sales. I do think there are some people that are like, we do need diversity. You know, our comics are whitewashed. We do have like standard, you know, blue eye, you know, Steve Rogers looking guy is our superhero all the time.
And arguably so.
Yeah.
You look at, you know, the shelves, and you see a lot of very male-dominated characters, titles on the shelf, and a lot of white character titles on the shelf. It's very true. And with your argument with the Flash, it's extremely a very good argument. The thing that makes the Flash a little different is the fact that when for writers, for example, it oftentimes is based upon the writers. Like Mark Waid, when he took over the Flash, he made it more of a family unit to where there was
Flash family.
Yeah, Jesse Quick. There was Impulse. There was Max Mercury. There was Wally West.
Wally West, right?
Yeah, and so on and so forth.
So basically, he just expanded the original idea.
That's my argument to it, is that instead of replacing someone, which I know they did with Barry, but eventually they brought Barry back to correct that course, and that's fine. Pound for pound, if you ask most people, the more interesting out of the two would be Wally. Based upon what he's done and how long he's been the Flash, versus Barry and what he's done based on how long he's been the Flash.
And to do another counterpoint to what I just said, Green Lantern, and into that, they expanded the idea of the Green Lantern concept. Whereas with the Alan Scott, it was, you know, a magic, and then with Hal Jordan and all the other Lanterns that came after him, it's the more core. It's about the core and these different characters that we've actually all grown to love, from the alien Kilowog to John Stewart to Kyle Rayner.
And that proves that all genders and species can work together for a common goal.
That's true.
Yeah.
Now, my thing is this. So I'm all about, as coming from a writer's standpoint too, I'm just about originality. And as a fan, I want originality.
Yes, original characters.
Original characters, and
that's why we did a 2-part Image Comics.
Exactly. Or I want, you better give me a hell of a good reason to want to get behind this new venture, going down this new road with this character or this new character.
Right.
So that comes to the writing. A lot of things that see, this is the thing. I love the black exploitation Marvel comics. Like, I love early Luke Cage, Blade, and Black Goliath, and all those characters.
Yeah.
The thing was, though, is a lot of those guys were written by white people. So they were, I commend them for trying to create the diversity and, you know, and create those characters. But they weren't really speaking from the voice of those characters. Whereas now the positive side is you have an African American writing an African American. You have a Muslim writing a Pakistani Muslim character. You know, you have people who actually know what they're talking about. Right, Donald's pulling out one of my favorite covers for the Black Exploitation.
Black Lightning?
Justice League America number 173. We have Superman on the cover with Black Lightning, and Superman's extending his hand, and he's saying, "We want you on the team, Black Lightning." And Black Lightning's got this, like, shocked look, and he's like, "With that jive bunch of turkeys in the JLA? Forget it."
There's a Three Musketeers multicolored dude.
What we're saying is we're totally in agreement with Black Lightning not wanting to join.
He has almost like a little fool killer thing going on with that outfit.
Slightly.
So, and then another thing too with the diversity is I have 2 daughters. So when I started wanting to get them into comic books, I noticed that all the, like, I was reading them a lot of the old stuff, and they were like, yeah, this character's cool and all, but like, where's some cool girl characters?
Right.
So I noticed Marvel out of the two big ones out of DC was really making strong, or at least like very interesting female characters, whether it's a girl like Lunella Lafayette in Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur.
Which makes complete sense because Moon Boy hasn't been seen in forever.
Exactly.
Or used.
That's what I'm saying. It was a clever thing.
Yeah.
And even I will say, yes, it is confusing. Like, I totally agree with you on the Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, all that. That is just a clusterfuck of craziness. And if you're coming into it and you don't know what's going on, you see a Captain Marvel book on the shelf and a Miss Marvel book on the shelf, you're going to be like, what do I buy? But as far as the writing goes, they did explain that she was this super fan of Miss Marvel and her powers were shape-shifting. So when she first was just hit with the Terrigen Cloud and her powers came into play, her mind was, I'm a superhero. Who's a superhero I look up to is Miss Marvel. So she kind of just shape-shifted into Miss Marvel, and then she took on the moniker of that. Yes, she could have definitely gone down, and I guarantee she will. I guarantee eventually she'll have her own name and her own...
And someone else will become Miss
which
Marvel.
will make her more of a strong character. But then you have headlines. Diversity for just the sake of headlines has nothing to do with the respect to the character.
No.
It's just it's almost, to me, it's offensive to the group that they're trying to represent.
Here's one that upset me greatly. The mantle of Captain America being given to Sam Wilson, and Sam Wilson accepting the mantle of Captain America. Now, I get, we've already had at this point the Captain America, what was it, Red, White, and Blue or something like that, where they had already created a super soldier serum that created a black African American Captain America.
It was like a retcon thing.
Right?
Yeah,
they already did that. Now, to give this to Sam Wilson, okay, I get it. You know, he's going to take the mantle for a little bit or something. Okay. But my problem lies in the fact that Sam Wilson was the first African American superhero to appear in comics as a character named the Falcon.
Right.
Where's the Falcon now? Where is
Right.
he now? It's just Sam Wilson, Captain America. So you have thrown away decades
40 years of history or something.
of
so.
history.
And it's kind of offensive to an individual. I know we're talking about characters here, but they're, you know, they represent something. But it's offensive to the character because the guy stands on his own as the Falcon. He's
Absolutely.
his own man.
Great character. One of my Marvel favorites.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
And then you put him as like kind of like, here, you can be Captain. You can play Captain America.
You'll be a
now.
second-rate Captain
Yeah.
America.
You can be okay for now.
Right.
You know, and it's like, and then Captain America, of course, comes back, and they're like, well, we'll just have two books. We'll have Sam Wilson as Captain America, and we'll have, you know, Steve Rogers as Captain America.
And even not on the diversity side, just when we were talking about the clusterfuck of people being the same character.
Yeah.
The Winter Soldier, who is an amazing character but to be able to bring back Bucky and make him the Winter Soldier was a feat in itself. But then to just shit on it and be like, and now he's going to be Captain America for a while because Captain America is quote unquote dead.
Mm-hmm.
You have two crappy, just like money grabs. You have let's kill Captain America and then let's make Bucky, who's become this kind of crazy assassin, Captain America. You know, like,
Yeah.
it's
And this kind of proves your point about lack of creativity.
big time.
You have executives just throwing stuff in the air. Let's see what sticks.
Well, I would say that the whole Nightwing taking up the mantle of Batman most likely inspired Marvel to say, let's bring Bucky back, and why not have him take up the mantle of Captain America when Steve Rogers passes? So it's lazy storytelling, in my opinion.
It's also that thing though, I think, of like it's taking a great idea and then just not knowing what to do with it or how to sustain it because maybe that writer left, you know, who was, I don't know, it was
Was it Brubaker?
Yeah.
Brubaker.
It was Brubaker.
Brubaker.
Great writer, don't get me wrong.
Oh, no. Brubaker's
Great
the
writer.
shit. But I'm saying, like, that thing of, like, almost like with a Venom or something like that. You create this character that people, like, really like, and then they go, oh, well, people like him, so let's make him more likable or more
Right,
popular. Even though, like,
yeah.
that's not really what fits with the Winter Soldier, you know? Like, he's kind of, like,
Let's make an anti-hero out of him instead of a villain.
That's where Marvel screws up a lot is with their
It's kind of like making
anti-heroes.
Joker logical.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, he's a force of nature.
But back to the diversity and the good and the bad. One of the ones that bugged me was Alan Grant. When the New 52,
Alan Grant or Alan Scott?
Alan Scott. I'm sorry, I want to say Alan Grant. It's Alan Grant. Okay, I made up Alan Grant, and I'm just going to let him just go into the mist. Goodbye, Alan Grant, and hello, Alan Scott, the original Green Lantern. One of the big changes, instead of just changing teams or changing origins, they made Alan Scott just gay all of a sudden.
Yes, he had I think it was an Asian boyfriend, Chinese maybe. I'm not 100%, maybe Korean, but yeah, he had a boyfriend. And don't get me wrong, the way they told the story, they seemed very loving to each other.
Right.
But the problem lies in the fact that Alan Scott had children,
right?
And that's not necessarily meaning that gay families can't have children, but they didn't in this. They didn't write it.
Once again, kind of shitting on already a cool idea that was established that had a gay character. His son, Obsidian, Todd Rice,
yes,
was gay.
Yes.
He was a gay character. And he was a character, we were talking about this before we started recording, if you're going to change a character's like sexuality or something like that, make it fit. Make it organic. Make it not like, hey, this guy who has been around since like the 40s all of a sudden is gay now. Not like really much explanation. But his son, who is this interesting character, who then you just happen to find out later on happened to be gay.
Yeah.
That's an organic, real way of handling story
and it creates
and a character.
Such a complication because the father is from the 40s. You know what I mean? Like he's
from the old school.
Created and built then. Yeah, he's old school. And his estranged son comes back and they start to sort of bond a little bit together. And then he's like, oh, by the way, I'm gay. So this creates kind of a different dynamic.
And it's so real, too, because real-life families deal with this.
Exactly, yeah. And they're growing up with this right now. So to have that, I would think would be extremely important for young gay men or women growing up and seeing this and being like, oh my God, this superhero, is coming.
I can relate to him.
Yeah, I can relate to this. I can think about this, and this matters to me.
Right.
Versus just like, oh yeah, that character, he's gay now.
Right.
And guess what?
Because it's literally done like that. It's
right.
Like, by the way, headline in NBC, did you know that there's an X-Men character that's gay now? And you're like, what? You click on it, and like, Iceman's gay now. And you're like,
what?
What? Like, why? Like,
Since when? Yeah, he was chasing ass. For how long? Since the 60s, he's been chasing ass.
Yeah.
And suddenly that ass is now male ass.
Yeah. Which would be fine if it was organically done, Not
right.
just for like a fucking Access Hollywood headline so Marvel Comics or DC Comics or whoever can get a blurb.
Yes.
Because you're taking a character that people have... It's not about like, I love this character and that's not my character. It's, I love this character and you completely just rewrote them.
Why not? Remember North Star from Alpha Flight?
Yes.
Right. Why not raise him up in a book?
Yeah. That was a good one.
Here's one that I have. I wrote down a few original creations that are gay. Apollo and Midnighter.
Great gay couple. Yeah.
Great gay couple. Originally introduced as a gay couple.
Right.
And kick ass. North Star. Renee Montoya, who eventually became the Question, where I have a problem with her then, as she, basically replaced Vic Sage, who was another great character that shouldn't have been replaced.
Another shitty,
Yeah. Shatterstar and Richter.
That's right.
Yeah.
See, that was out of left field, but it wasn't unbelievable.
Because they weren't, like, hugely popular. They were secondary characters, don't get me wrong.
And then you also hugely weren't established as heterosexuals.
Right. We didn't have a lot of backstory about them or establishing with their characters. Wiccan and Hulkling, basically out the gate, were introduced as gay characters. Mikhail Thomas, who was Starman, eventually introduced as a gay character.
He's a gay alien.
Gravity and Power Boy from the Legion of Superheroes. And even Kate Kane, who was Batwoman,
yes,
very early on introduced as a lesbian character, as a gay character. So it's very interesting to me to see all these original creations and going, oh, these are all, they're great. These are great characters that a lot of people love and can get behind, and they can really, see that as a force for positivity.
Just be original is where I stand. Be original. Don't just grab a headline. I get it. You're a business and you want to, boost sales. Or not even expand something. Sometimes that's what I'm saying. If it was legitimately you wanted to expand your business to a gay market or to an African American market or to a Hispanic market, then you write an interesting, realistic, Hispanic, African American character, and you preferably, in fact, I would insist, you have those characters written by a person of that race, creed, sexuality, gender, whatever, to make it even more believable.
Here's one I have is Kong Kenan, who's the new Superman and part of the Justice League of China.
Right.
Introduced in the rebirth of DC Comics. So well done, guys.
Right.
I cannot stress this enough how good this book is and how everybody that isn't reading it should be reading it. It builds a whole world of new characters, new heroes, new villains. It brings in characters from China that we haven't seen in a while that Grant Morrison first introduced. It's just...
Oh, like Crazy LSD Man and,
No, not
and
those
Acid
guys.
Face and
No.
Ayahuasca Tripper?
Not quite, but close.
Yeah, okay.
But, like, everything about this book is new and fresh.
Right.
There's nothing that seems old. He's just using the name of Superman because the government in China wants to create a Justice League-like group there
Right.
to emulate the United States, to say, hey, we have our own. We don't need you guys coming over here. We have our own Justice League. Thank you very much. And that makes complete sense to me.
Right.
The stories are just so good. So there's a way to come about this. There's a way to get established good writers that know their stuff to come in and create these new characters, maybe with a tie to a superhero, but not necessarily replacing him. The new Superman is not replacing Clark Kent.
Right.
Not at all. He's helping enhance the mythos of Superman and the Justice League.
That's actually what they're doing right in that book, is what they're kind of doing, not kind of, what they're doing wrong in the Iron Man book. They've introduced Riri Williams, who is, I think she's like a 15-year-old African-American girl. She's a genius.
Mm-hmm.
And she builds her own Iron Man suit. And she takes on... Tony Stark essentially gives her the okay to, like... He's like, yeah, you know your shit. You can wear your suit and be Iron Man. But well, obviously she's a girl and a kid, and she calls herself Iron Heart, which is cool. But they should call the book Iron
Heart, right?
Yeah.
It's still the Invincible Iron Man.
Which
and
doesn't
then,
make sense.
And then in the corner, I think sometimes it says, like, with Ironheart. That, to me, is just like, you created an interesting character. Let her stand on her own.
Yeah.
We've established her origin. Let her stand on her own. Because then you have these stupid things like... And I even like the Jason Aaron, the Jane Foster Thor. It's well written. It's a fun story. But... then they have these spin-offs like the the Unworthy Thor, and like and Iron Man's like kind of in the background of his book, and I think he's got his own book.
The Unworthy Thor.
Yeah,
Are you serious?
It's the
Yeah,
Unworthy
it's
Thor.
basically it's
I might as well have the uncircumcised of Thor.
it's
My
Thor,
goodness.
Thor himself.
Thank goodness.
You know,
without Mjolnir.
yeah,
Yeah.
and basically trying to prove his worth, I guess.
Right. I don't know. I just it's a slippery slope. I obviously want diversity in comics. I want that.
But you want it done right.
I want originality, and I
Right.
want respect to those
And-
genders, creeds, sexualities,
and
and
you
all
guys, DC, Marvel, Image, all you guys, you are doing a lot of things right. Don't get me wrong.
that. Tons, yeah.
But please, just try to create original characters and let them fly on their own. So basically, another thing that we want to really come and step upon is the fact that we're dealing with a lot of history with comic books. One that I think that it's very important to know your history of comic books and where we started and how far along we've come since then. For example, knowing your history, the first black character in mainstream comics was, anybody know?
I would say T'Challa, Black Panther, right?
Correct, yeah, the Black Panther. He first appeared in Fantastic Four number 52 in 1966.
Well, that's weird, because when I just Googled first black comic book hero, Wikipedia says exactly what you just said. It says the first black superhero in mainstream American comic books is Marvel's The Black Panther. Fantastic Four 52, 1966. He was originally conceived by Jack Kirby as a character named Cole Tiger. But now here's the interesting thing. The picture they show above is Luke Cage Hero for Hire, number 1. So,
Wow.
bad on you, Wikipedia Google search, for putting that picture up.
We all don't look alike.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. I'm
Okay.
sorry. Go on.
Yeah, no. with that, we have the first African American character in mainstream comics. I know we touched upon earlier. That would be the Falcon, who was created in Captain America number 117 back in September of 1969. The first female comic superhero, Phantoma, who was a mystery woman of the jungle. She was first featured in a backup story in Jungle Comics number 2 in February 1940.
Right.
And we're dealing with a lot of history, and one that really strikes me and really sticks out is back in 1953. There was a 7-page story entitled Judgment Day. It was from EC Comics in Weird Fantasy number 18.
Right.
It was written by Al Feldstein, drawn and inked by Joe Orlando. It was about basically it was a sci-fi story about an astronaut named Tarlin who landed on a planet inhabited by blue and orange robots. The blue robots, they lived in a segregated and poorer existence than the orange robots in a place called Blue Town, probably because they were sad because they were so poor.
From having blue balls.
That could
whoa,
be too.
Whoa.
I guess that could be.
I know robots can get that.
Yeah.
They could, yeah.
Yeah.
They're quite tinny. Yeah. The astronaut had been sent to the robot planet to see whether they were worthy of inclusion in an organization called the Galactic Republic. After seeing the segregation and mistreatment of the blue robots, he decided that they are not ready to join the Great Galactic Republic until they learn to live together in equality and peace. Now, here's the most important part, gentlemen. In the final panel of the comic, Tarlin the astronaut removes his helmet to reveal that he is, in fact, a black man.
I remember that one.
Now, guys, this was in 1953. Think about that. Think about how important this was.
Right.
The statement that this made. Just incredible. Incredible for EC Comics to do this, let alone get away with doing this.
That is cool. Also, just a little tidbit of comic book history as far as African American characters go. There was a character in Dell Comics. His name was Lobo. He was a fictional Western comic book hero who is that medium's first African American character to headline his own series. And now I've looked into these books. A lot of these books, very hard to find, but they're really cool looking, like really cool old Western looking. And he was actually, one of the first, not superheroes, but one of the first kind of African American characters to have his own title.
And as we build upon these characters, we have to look towards the future in what we've done recently. One that created quite a conundrum for me would be the character Simon Baz. Simon Baz was created by Jeff Johns to be part of the Green Lantern Corps.
Right.
And basically the story of Simon Baz was he was born in Dearborn, Michigan. He's a Lebanese American. And he was born and living in Michigan during the September 11th attacks in 2001. Him and his sister Sarah were both persecuted due to their ethnicity during that time. Of course, that makes sense. They would see them as terrorists or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's a sad state of affairs that we were in during that time.
Right.
As a young adult, though, Simon got involved in a street racing gang type thing and eventually car theft. He got fired from his job, and in a moment of desperation, he stole a car. While he was trying to evade the police in the stolen vehicle, he finds out that there was a bomb in it. I couldn't believe it when I read it. He drives the van into an abandoned car factory that he was laid off from. He knew nobody would be there to be hurt when it exploded.
Right.
The explosion resulted and made everybody think that this was an act of terrorism. So the authorities, the authorities are saying this is an act of terrorism. So Simon's brought in for questioning. As he's being interrogated, a green ring appears, lands on his finger, and he gets to fly away and escape.
It's the best way to get out of things.
Right, of course. Yeah, I mean, I wish too.
What's strange is what's with the stereotype, and what's interesting, Jeff Johns himself is a Lebanese American. Why would you write a stereotype? Even though I know he's trying to break the stereotype, but why would you just kind of include that in his origin story?
Why? Why on earth make it like, why can't you create this Lebanese American that's doing something positive? Not stealing, for starters,
right.
And not stealing something that has a fucking bomb in it.
Right.
Which
is another reason, I've talked about it at length, why I love Miss Marvel. Kamala Khan's family happens to be Muslim. She's a girl growing up in New Jersey. Mm-hmm. She's born in America. Her family is from Karachi. But they're raised as, it's just a family. It's cool, actually, because you kind of learn, the terms of endearment, I guess, for a father is a boo and mother is a me. And so you learn to me, I'm like, I learn about the heritage, and not because it's forced down my throat or it's really just nailed. Like,
It's natural.
It's natural. It's the telling of this family, and it's beautiful, and it's organic.
And you can relate to it.
Right.
And what's good about this is that people who are of, a Middle Eastern or South Asian or Pakistani origin will enjoy the story.
You said you have a friend that's a huge Miss Marvel.
Yes,
fan,
I have
right?
a Pakistani American friend. She loves Miss Marvel. Matter of fact, if they ever make a movie, she wants to play the character.
Right.
Because
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because she relates to the character. It speaks to her. Matter of fact, she has a dog that looks a lot like Lockjaw, interestingly enough.
Wow.
So
that's
she
cool.
perfectly relates to the character.
Inspired by a character that might have come from another character, but is growing into her own.
Yep.
And
Right.
due to her diversity and due to the strength of the writing of the character.
And if they're smart, they'll change it for Miss Marvel. They'll give her her own name.
Yeah.
You know.
And just build Miss Marvel be like something that somebody can always become. You know,
Right.
you can be the next Miss Marvel,
Exactly.
in other words.
And
And
keep
then
building up for generations to come.
right.
Another
exactly.
cool character that's diverse that also isn't really ham-fisted as far as like that she's African American. Lunella Lafayette, the Moon Girl Devil Dinosaur. Mm-hmm. My daughter loves that character. The funny thing is, she's a genius, and that's not her superpower. In fact, they pretty much said she's the smartest person in the Marvel Universe. Her inhuman power happens to be that she can switch minds with the dinosaur. It's a weird power, but she's a genius. Not once does really race even come up into it. It's actually just a cool story about a girl.
And you accept it.
Yeah, exactly. You just accept it. And it's wonderful.
And it goes to show you, too, that whatever sells. And you'll see people cosplay at the conventions and on Halloween with some of these newer characters. Miss Marvel is a big cosplay,
Right.
big on the cosplay scene.
And I get Marvel and DC, they have these... the thing is, they don't have parameters as far as, like... They have parameters as far as maybe their content can't go to a certain level. As far as, like, we look at Image, original created characters... the storylines wouldn't be... You wouldn't see those ever in Marvel or DC.
Nope, you would never see Chew at DC.
You'd never
or
see a
Marvel.
Chew or DC or Marvel. But when it comes to character creation, they still can... It's their company. They have a lot of freedom to create a new character. And if anything, the smart thing would be to create new characters.
You see, the problem is, unfortunately, this is where a lot of these, corporate executives may have certain fears and apprehensions, and they may interfere.
Oh, yeah, they won't understand a new character if they're not linked to Captain America or if they're not linked to, an already...
They're scared of their shareholders.
Right. Well, or just that fans won't connect to somebody that's not already an established character.
Right.
Or moniker or name.
Right.
Which to me is just, I don't know, it's just grow some balls.
It's kind of a lazy way to do
it's
something.
very lazy. It's extremely lazy, yeah. Just be original. Create some original ideas and original characters.
I mean, I don't think we touched on the Milestone creation.
Milestone was great, right?
Yeah, Milestone was awesome.
That was a DC... kind of wasn't an alternate universe. It was like an alternate universe.
Yeah.
It was the Milestone universe.
Yep. They eventually, I think, brought it in, but yeah, for the most part, for the longest time, it was a separate thing.
And all the characters were at the time, whatever, ethnically diverse. Most of it were, and I think written by African American writers and drawn by African American artists.
Yes.
And was
Extremely popular
Yeah.
in the DC
like
universe.
Static Shock is still a very popular character.
Extremely popular,
There
yes.
was what was it, Blood Syndicate? Blood Syndicate. That
Yeah.
was a really cool.
Yep.
It was like a superpowered street gang.
And there was one called Hardwire, I think.
Hardware.
Or something. Hardware.
He was like Iron Man.
Yeah, it was cool.
And
that was my favorite one.
And Icon.
Icon.
Icon was
yeah.
great.
The character Icon appeared in the Justice League Unlimited series.
You don't say.
Was it that? No, Young Justice.
Was it?
Young Justice.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
it was Young
he was in the Young
Justice.
Justice. He,
All right.
He joins the Justice League in it. Well, because I think they did that thing that they do all the time. They put the worlds together. They put Milestone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with that being said, as far as diversity and things like that, I think we're building towards something very good. I think questioning it is definitely fine. I mean, it opens a dialogue. It's just being able to accept the dialogue, to be able
Yeah.
to accept that other people have different opinions. Not necessarily that where, diversity is a negative and can hinder sales. We're saying diversity has only been growing since the start and shows the strength of these characters.
And respect the characters. Respect those characters that they can stand on their own. They don't need to go under somebody else's moniker. They can be Sam Wilson Falcon, not Sam Wilson Captain America.
Yes.
Kamala Khan could be her own character, not just Kamala Khan Miss Marvel. Because that's another thing. When you have to say Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, so people know who you're talking about.
Right.
But another thing, too, is don't just listen to the retailers. Listen to the fans, right? Listen to the fans, the people who care about it.
I mean, the retailers, some of them, to be fair, are only about the bottom line. They just want the money, the cash, because it's a business.
Right.
I mean, like any other place. They're running a business to make money, to have sales.
Right.
So if characters aren't selling, they're blaming these characters, these books. And that might not be the case. It might be on the fault of Marvel or DC for not advertising them well enough or not giving them their own moniker, their own character name, their own life force, so to speak, to breathe, to show you. The covers say so much of a character. And for me, if the cover doesn't sell me on it, I might still pick it up, but it's going to be harder for me. I might still pick it up, and if I flip through it and I kind of read a little bit of it, if it doesn't sell me in that first issue, I'm out.
Also, let the characters breathe. I notice a lot, especially Marvel, they'll write like a 6 issue kind of story arc and then just start it over again with the same character, but maybe probably a different creative team or something like that. So
Marvel does that too much.
Yeah. So and what we were saying in that article we were talking about, it's flooding the market with too much product. So it's like the other day I picked up a Nova comic for Madeline, and it was the same Nova, Sam Alexander Nova, but it was from a different series. Because we're reading it and going, this doesn't fit into the story we're reading. We're like, oh, because it was like a year ago, number 5, not the number 5 that just came out.
See, that's confusing.
Yeah.
That's way too confusing, and it's annoying. I mean, it's just straight up annoying.
You see, and this is what could cut into your sales. This is why you have a shrinking.
Right, when your audience can't keep up. You're a prime example.
Yeah.
When you and your daughter, your 7-year-old daughter, soon to be 8, is trying to read a comic and they can't figure out where they're at in it and buy the wrong issue or something, that is a problem.
And or her father, who's been collecting comics for 30 plus years, can't figure out that this doesn't match with that one.
Yeah,
you know, like,
not
what
cool.
the
Not cool, Marvel. Shame on you. Definitely fix that shit.
But we also love you. But so with that, please. This is a really big subject, so we do want to hear your comments on this, like, big time. We
Comment
want to
to
hear
us
your
on
comments.
YouTube,
Absolutely.
Instagram, Twitter.
Let us know your feelings on it.
Yeah,
Check
follow
us
us
out on iTunes.
Please, yes, iTunes. It's very important.
Subscribe, rate, review. That helps everybody.
Yes, absolutely. And with that, thank you guys for listening. Please, if you have your own questions or theories or thoughts, like we said, we want to hear them. But with that, thank you for listening.
And we'll see you
at the Comic Shack.